to White, over to Caruso for the lead! Time here, turn up the 18! Woo!
Hello and welcome back to the Sea Red UK podcast, where quite simply it's Chicago Bulls thing. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. So wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, helps us out and ensures you don't miss another episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up and leave some comments down below. We will get back to them. I'm Matt, and as usual, joined by Neil. How are we doing, Neil?
I'm okay. I'm a little stressed. Real life has caused me to dodge a few curveballs this evening, but here we are. We're trying to put something together. I just do apologise in advance if I end up getting distracted or anything, because I'm currently recording in the work office.
Yeah, we were just discussing that since the season ended, real life just seems to have really took off and got in the way. So we're pretty glad that there's no Bulls games to be getting up for.
Yeah, exactly.
So last episode went out last Tuesday, and obviously since then we had the two playing games, the win against Hawks and the standard loss against the Heat in Game 2. Obviously, I said before it, I wasn't a fan of the playing, and that Heat game kind of brought that home to me because we was embarrassed in that, let alone the playoffs. And for the second straight year, we've lost in Miami to Miami, obviously. And I did put a tweet out before the Miami game saying that I didn't want to feel how I did last year, in the sense that after the playing game last year, it took us ages to get off the city, and I think we were talking till about 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I just felt numb that last year, and I didn't want to feel like that again. I think a lot of it was to do with the way the season ended and the fact that for the last 6 months we've been getting up at stupid times and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't know what we were going to do as Sea Red UK. This year, like I say, I didn't want to feel the same way. But as the game was going on, I couldn't wait for it to be over. I was just sick of watching this Bulls team. And obviously we know what we're doing as Sea Red UK, so that's not a problem this time. But I'm just glad it's over. I'd said that I was ready for the season to be done a few weeks back, to be honest. And that playing game just cemented that for me. The Hawks game gave me some false hope, I'll say that much, and a little bit of enjoyment. Obviously, Kobe going for a career night, not that it matters, which is another joke with the playing. Why, it's a competitive NBA game. Why don't the stats count? It's stupid. So that's how I feel about it. How did you feel about the playing and what happened and how it unfolded?
Yeah, no, I'm a bit more upbeat about the playing format than you are, but I felt the same way watching that game. When you could see that they'd stepped on the floor and they were not in the same frame of mind or playing with the same passion, or they just couldn't get into the game because of what the Heat were doing. It became very, very difficult to stomach, and it did get to that point where you're like, I just want this to be over now. It's like, watching someone you love in a boxing ring and you just want it to be finished. You want it to be done because you can see they're just getting battered. Just lie down. It's done. Throw in the towel. And that's kind of how it felt. It never felt like we were ever really going to threaten the Heat in that game from the onset. And that was kind of hard to watch. And it kind of left me thinking, I want something else to look forward to now, because this is obviously not going any further. And it's the off season that we can now turn our attention to, because thankfully that roller coaster season has finally stopped and let us off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that Hawks game, same as the Raptors game last year, give that false hope, didn't it? I mean, was it last year Zach went off in the Raptors game, and obviously DeAndre DeRozan assisted. This year, obviously, it's Kobe that goes off. I guess assisted by DeMar DeRozan this time, and then it comes to playing Heat, and we just look like we don't deserve to be there.
Yeah,
and it, I'd said to you before, when we knew that Jimmy Butler wasn't going to play, that that's not necessarily a good thing, as we saw when Trae Young did play. Hawks were worse when he was on the court, and we've seen it ourselves where Bulls have stepped up in the absence of Zach LaVine or P. Will or whoever it happens to be. Sometimes the absence of a player makes a team better. And I just felt that was what was going to happen with Heat, because they weren't relying on Jimmy. Other players had to step up, and that's what they did. The first thing they did was put Bam Adebayo on DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Yet it kind of made DeMar better because he had to be. There was only DeMar that looked like he was going to do anything in that game for Bulls.
Yeah, it's true.
The rest of the team were just non-existent, really. And obviously Caruso wasn't fully fit, and you could see that.
Yeah.
And we just basically limped over the finish line, didn't we? That's kind of how it felt. I mean, I've got nothing else on the play-in. I don't know if you have.
No, I suppose I just want it to be put to bed at this stage. But the only thing is, we're talking about the Hawks game versus the Heat game. And the Hawks game, Hawks are notoriously known for being absolutely pathetic on defense. So that allowed us to be able to manipulate that to our advantage in the first play-in game. The Heat don't have that weakness, right? The Heat are a very good defensive team. And not only are they a very good defensive team, they have a very good coach who is well able to make in-game decisions and adjustments, so that if one thing isn't working, he'll try something else or he'll do something else. And they just had an answer for absolutely everything apart from DeMar DeRozan in that game. And it was very telling that it looked like no matter what we did, there was never any point at which we could find a way of getting our nose in front.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing just on the Heat game in particular. I mentioned it on the live thread, I think it was, that Heat were defending how Bulls think they defend. And what I mean by that is, whether we tried to attack the paint, they had players there. We tried to go to the arc, they had players there. No matter what we did, there was just players there. And that seems to be how Bulls think they're defending. But in reality, they're just not. And yeah, like I say, I've got nothing else on it. It was kind of a fitting end to the season, I think. Just kind of that roller coaster continued. The higher the Hawks, the lower the Heat.
Yeah.
And, we win a game, we lose a game. And that just seems to be the way the Bulls season went. Obviously, on the Saturday, on the Friday after the game, the players did their sort of exit interviews, didn't they? Which the Bulls put all over Twitter. The only one that I can really remember was the sort of DeMar showing his frustration, and saying how, ideally he wants to stay in Chicago, but at the same time he wants to win. And at the minute, them two things aren't going to match up, are they?
Well, no, absolutely.
Which leads us on to AK's presser on Saturday. And it was different.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
He used the word that we've been wanting him to use, the C word, which is change.
Yeah.
Because he took accountability for obviously how the Bulls have done. He said it was on him. He likes the job that Billy's done, but obviously for whatever reason, it's just not worked. He didn't blame injuries as such, but did kind of say that they were a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously mentions that Lonzo's doing well in his rehab and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words.
There you go.
He said what we want to hear rather than what he's been saying in the past.
Yeah.
But he's also backed himself into a bit of a corner with the way the roster's constructed, the salary cap, the sort of the contracts that are expiring, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously traded away all our future assets, or majority of our future assets. So he's saying that change is needed, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him.
Very much.
What did you make of his presser to start with?
Well, it was everything I wanted to hear him say a year ago, basically.
Maybe even 2.
Yeah. But at this stage, like you say, it's going to be very, very difficult to back up what he's saying. Because as we can all see, and as Casey Johnson tried to point out to him a couple of times in the presser, financially, what he's saying and what he wants to do don't add up. And that's the problem. Like, I loved everything he had to say. Everything he said was everything I wanted to hear. But the reality doesn't seem to go parallel to it. And that's my fear. Is it going to be empty words and not able to back it up? Purely because, like you say, that the salary cap, with the contracts that they're on, with the players that they're saying that they do want to keep or that they're interested in keeping, I don't see how they're going to tally it all together to make this team turn around. It feels a little bit like it's a case of you need now at this stage, where it wouldn't have been at this stage a little earlier on. At this stage now, it feels like you're going to have to blow everything up in order to rebuild.
Yeah,
I just don't see a way around. Like, I mean, he talked in the presser like they want to keep DeMar. They want to keep P. Will. They want to keep, I would presume, Io from the way he was speaking. Now, okay, so let's just say they just keep the 3 of those. You've still got to decide what you're going to do with Lonzo, because he's still on the books. Is he staying? Are they going to write him off? What's going to happen there? They're talking like he's coming back still. And I just don't think they've... I know he kept saying they have to sit down and they have to talk. They have to sit down and they have to talk and come up with a plan, and that has started. But it also feels like he's not realizing how big a job is ahead of him. He's talking like it's something that can be fixed. He did say they'll need to get creative like they did before, which is all good and well. But unless he can see some sort of magic beans that I can't see, I don't see how he gets this turned around in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, because I think it was the same day, comes out from... It wasn't reported by Casey Johnson, but he wrote it, that he's heard from sources that they've offered DeMar DeRozan a 2-year deal at $40 million a year. Obviously $80 million over the 2 years. How are they going to do that?
Without going into the luxury tax, unless they're a top 4 team.
Yeah,
which was what he said.
And obviously on top of that, saying that they want to bring P. Will back. I think I heard his qualifying offers 13 mil, something like that, similar to what Kobe's got.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is he worth that much at the minute? Is his potential worth that much? It's, yeah. Obviously, we're going to get into all that further down the line, but
yeah,
you've got Javon Carter, that was his big free agency signing last year. That's just been a big disappointment, but he's here for another 2 years.
Yeah,
guaranteed at $6 million or whatever it is. Like you said, Lonzo Ball, is he coming back? We've had this hanging over us now for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
and that to me has been the one that's been the stumbling block with this whole team, because we've done nothing about it.
Yeah.
You know, and at this point, I mean, I've mentioned it before. I'm done with the loyalty that they're showing to Lonzo. We know that Lonzo is going to take this player option that he's got for next year, because why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But you know, in an ideal world, you want Lonzo to say, "No, I just want to go rehab, make sure I get myself back, have another year out, whatever, and then I'll be looking. You know, I'll enter sort of free agency or however it works." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Bulls aren't going to turn around to Lonzo and say, "We don't want you. We're going to essentially force you into retirement or whatever," because they've stuck by him for the last 2 years. So what's another year? They're not going to be able to trade Lonzo, which, you know, because who's going to want him apart from somebody who gets him and basically waives him or lets him see it out so they can clear 20 million off their salary the following year or whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously Vooch is another one that we've got another 20 million tied up in him per year for the next 2 years. And he wasn't good enough for that last year. Again, we'll get into the individual performances later down the line, but and then obviously you've got the Zach LaVine thing. You know, to me, that's the one that's one that's got to happen. But depending who you listen to at the minute, there isn't a market for him, but then there is a market for him. There's potentially a market for him when somebody goes out of the playoffs, or, you know, Pistons changing front office or whatever it is they're doing, and does that change their stance on him? Do the free agent market and the draft market aren't particularly fantastic this off season? So does a team want to change the roster by trades? You just don't know, do you? And yeah, there's just so many questions hanging over this team at the minute.
Yeah.
And I just don't think AK can provide the answers. And I think he's basically knew that he had to say something different. Now, like I say, he's got to act on it, and he's got to put what he said in motion, basically. And I mean, he's not going to come out and tell us, right, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, because at the end of the day, he probably doesn't actually know himself what he's going to do.
No.
You know, but there's so many players on the roster that are coming to the end of the deals. They've got a year left on the deal. You know, how long do you tie some of these players into this team again? You know, like DeMar, like, well, obviously Vooch, Kobe, Ayo got another 2 years. You know, are you trying to put them all in that same timeline? Are you going a year further? And, you know, it's just, yeah. That's just sort of like your starting players as well, isn't it? Then you've got your role players to think of, and it's the role players that need to be improved. But
yes,
how does he improve them? Because he's got no money to do it, and he's got no space to do it. It's just, yeah. I'm already sick of the off season, than the stupid rumors and the talk. I hate.
that didn't take long.
All that. Nah, you know, I mean, the first one that comes out, we're going to look at trading for Donovan Mitchell or Trae Young. You know, it's just, yeah. I hate the stupid rumors, and I mean, obviously the rumor was that it was Zach that was going to be traded for Trae Young. I don't know who was going to be traded for Donovan Mitchell, but I think he's only got a year left on his deal. And yeah, the big moves, but do they actually affect what Bulls do? You know, do they? Is it the move? Is it the right sort of move, or is it just clickbait, basically?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Is it just clickbait, or is there any reality behind it? And first of all, I really hope that there's no reality behind the Trey Young thing. I know you feel the same way too.
I would quit as a Wolves fan if Trey Young wears a Bulls
That's a bit
jersey.
strong, but yeah, okay. I can see where you're coming from. He's also been rumoured to go to the Spurs, I heard too. So let's hope they pick him up instead.
I mean, obviously there's the rumours that he goes to Lakers, which I'd love that.
They can have him as well.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And go play with that other whiny little bitch, LeBron.
Yeah, exactly. As for Donovan Mitchell, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'd take him in a Bulls uniform. I just don't see how that's realistic. I guess the way to look at it is, and this has been spoken about elsewhere, but the Cavs aren't a big market team, right? And if they bomb out, they're going to struggle to get players to want to go to them. And that being said, they probably considered Zach to be obtainable, shall we say. And there may be something that they can piece together where they wouldn't just take Zach. They take Zach and another solid piece, something maybe like a Drummond or a Caruso or something like that, perhaps, and put something together that way in order to get Zach in and send Donovan Mitchell out. And I think Donovan Mitchell has, 1 year left on his contract?
Yeah, I think that's why he's rumoured in it.
Yeah. So with that being said, then, you're going into that territory of, okay, we get Donovan Mitchell in, but would we be able to retain him?
Yeah.
And that would be the risk. But it's a risk I'd be willing to take if I thought that was something that we could get done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the whole being linked to these players, but it's whether there's any reality to it, any truth to it. Do you know what I mean? Because all it is anybody can write an article and say, "Oh, Bulls are going to look at drafting Bronny James, for example, so that they can get LeBron to Bulls next year." Anybody can put that. Anybody can share it around on Twitter, and all it takes is a few retweets, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening, and all of a sudden, LeBron's a Bull next year. When in reality, there's been no talk that we want Bronny or LeBron or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's just
that's right.
And that's why I hate this time, and I kind of wait for anything. It's got to come from Woj, Shams, or Casey Johnson before I start any kind of belief in it. I think I mentioned before in here, I'm not into the rumours. I'm just it irritates me.
I actually quite enjoy finding a reason to debunk them a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's as we tend to do with most of them. I mean, was there anything else from AK's presser that stood out?
Yeah, actually there was. And it was something that I am going to commend him for, because it's not something we've seen him do before. And that's outside of what he actually said. But the thing that impressed me was he stood there, and he was on his own.
Yeah.
Normally he has Billy or Mark with him. This was the first time he sat there, took it all on the chin, looked as uncomfortable as hell. But he sat there, he held his hand up, he took full accountability, full blame for everything, which he rightly should. And he was ready to have every question and every finger pointed at him. And like I say, he didn't look very comfortable about it. He knew what was coming, but he was there. He was present, and he was prepared for it in regards to, okay, here I am. I'm ready to take it on the chin. And I was quite impressed by that side of it. It was good that he was that upfront and honest. Now, I just hope that he's a man of his word, which he hasn't always been. and that he at least backs up some of what he had to say. I'd also like to say that I really enjoyed. Now I tweeted this as well, but I really enjoyed when Casey Johnson asked if he could ask another question at the end, and whoever it was that was the MC turned to him and said, "Do you have one more question, Casey?" And he said, "Oh, I've always got one more question."
Yeah,
Which that gave me a little chuckle, because Casey is always able to find more questions. Fair play to him.
yeah, and I imagine he wasn't the only one. There's probably so many more questions, and
I would say a lot of them weren't quite prepared with the right questions, because they didn't expect AK to come out and diffuse the situation by taking it completely and utterly on his own shoulders. And I think they would have gone in with a different line of questioning had they expected or anticipated that.
Yeah, I think everybody was expecting AK bingo, weren't they?
Yeah.
The same stuff, the competitive continuity, the if we were healthy, all that sort of stuff, and none of it come. And I think it's thrown everybody. And I think everybody's pretty much impressed by what they heard from him.
Yeah.
But now we want to see it from him.
That's it, exactly.
And I think, obviously, that's all we can say on it, isn't it?
He's laid the path, but now he has to walk on it.
Yeah. And I hope he does, whichever way he decides to do. Personally, I'll give him this off-season, see what he does, and then whichever way he goes. If it's not so much the on-court, how it goes on-court, because that's out of his control.
Yeah.
Once he's put that roster together, once he's drafted whoever he drafts, once he picks up whoever in free agency, makes any trades, sign and trades, whatever it happens to be, that's his job done.
Right.
And that's all I'll be judging him on, is, because we've said time and time again, this roster is not constructed very well at all. And that's basically his fault. It's his fault that Billy's having to use the players that he was having to use.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll reserve judgment on AK until, obviously, we've seen what he does this off-season, because I think this is now his biggest off-season.
Yeah.
Basically.
Since his first one.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you've got anything else on his presser.
No.
Obviously, obviously, with the season coming into an end, we did want to sort of thank everybody, for the support and everything over the last season, the interaction, all that sort of stuff on Twitter, as everybody else does. I did put a tweet out as well. Obviously, we're not planning on going anywhere. Might be a little bit more sporadic with the pods. Might not be as strictly scheduled due to real life and lack of content at times, I think.
Yeah.
But we've got plenty of content for now. Obviously, we've just done the polls to find our season awards. Currently doing the polls for player grades. So obviously, if you haven't, just go on Twitter. That's where they are. They tend to start in the Discord, which if you're not in, then give me a shout. I'll send you the invite. That's one thing that we are going to be pushing for in this off season, is to try and grow the Discord server. And we'll go into the season awards, which obviously have been put out there on Twitter. The winners. Obviously, we'll go through our predictions, our actual votes, and the eventual winner. First one was our unsung hero, and this award is the player that kind of goes under the radar, does his job, on a nightly basis, maybe doesn't get the recognition that's deserved. Now the eventual winner was Alex Caruso,
Mm-hmm.
who didn't get either of our votes.
No.
And that's not a knock on Caruso. It's not a knock on
No.
anybody that voted for him. However, we just don't think that his performance, his style of play is worthy of unsung hero, because he does get recognition for it.
He does now, yeah. Since last year.
He was on All Defence last year, likely to be on one of the 3 teams again this year. So for us personally, or for me personally, I didn't think he was worthy of it, because it just doesn't fit the title, basically.
But at the same time, just to play devil's advocate, even though I agree with what you just said, I can excuse me, I can understand why people would put him as an unsung hero as opposed to like an MVP caliber or whatever, because he's not always a starter, and he may not necessarily be considered as one of the alphas or one of the core players. So I think that's perhaps why people consider him unsung, just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a few comments from the Discord before we go into our predictions and our actual votes. But we've got Ash. He went with AC. Seems to go unmentioned a lot, but we seen last night how much we missed a healthy AC. Obviously, going back to the Heat game where I said he didn't look healthy as well.
No.
And it was noticeable. Gary did want to go Caruso, but he has had recognition for defensive game and nods to DPOY. So obviously he's put that sung, which is basically what we've just said. Doesn't exactly go under the radar when you're getting that sort of recognition.
Not anymore.
Gary continues to say, going to have to be green. Came in, fit right back in, and showed what this team loves straight away. So obviously his vote was Javonte in the end. Wayne, tough one. Obvious choice is AC, but he's not really unsung hero. Should be an all-defensive team and improved offensively. His vote goes to Dalen. Doesn't always play, but when he does, gives his all, whether he gets 10 minutes or 10 seconds. So they were the only comments. Well, they were from the Discord. Now, my prediction for the award was Torrey Craig when we do the predictions at the start of the season.
Yeah.
That was my prediction. My actual vote in the end went to my guy, Javonte, who did finish second. I'll let you do your prediction and your actual vote.
Yeah, I think my prediction was for Drummond at the start of the season. I didn't stick with that. My final vote for unsung hero was for Dalen Terry. Basically, the reason why I didn't go for Javonte, who would have been my other choice, was because of the sample size. That even though Javonte came in and had a huge impact, he was only on the squad for the last 2 months of the season. And what a 2 months it was in regards to impact, which is why I totally and utterly understand why people would have voted for him. But for me, Dalen was there, consistently getting better throughout the course of the season. I've always said he takes every minute he can, and he tries to do the most with them. He comes on with passion. He comes on with energy. Doesn't always get it right. Still needs to work on his shot a little bit, even though it has improved slightly. It still looks a bit janky, but it's certainly more successful. And it's the stuff that doesn't show on the stat sheets that I like about Dalen Terry. And he moves non-stop. He cuts. He is a very good distributor of the ball, and doesn't get enough credit for it. He's very good at passing the ball and finding the little drop passes and the little kickouts. And for that reason, I went for DT.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I say, I went for Javonte, just purely because it gave me that last little bit of hope at the end of the season when I was done. if I'd have gone for somebody over the course of the season, like the full season, because I couldn't go with Torrey Craig, I'd have probably gone with DT as well, to be honest. So that's it for the unsung hero. Like I say, the eventual winner was Alex Caruso. The next award that we gave out was for our most improved. Now, the last year's winner of the most improved was Kobe, and this year's winner was also Kobe. And yeah, I get it. You know, he's in the final for the NBA's most improved. So rightly so, he wins the Bulls most improved. Just on the unsung hero before we go, Kobe won that one as well last year.
Yeah.
So the last couple of years, we've really seen Kobe's stock go like that.
Definitely.
And I mean, my prediction for it was actually Dalen at the start of the season. Yeah, it's always going to be a tough one when you talk about Dalen in it, which again we'll get into further down the line. My actual vote this year went to Ayo, and that is purely because it wasn't expected. I think more so than anything. I kind of knew that Kobe was going to keep improving, give him more minutes, give him more usage and stuff like that. I wasn't sure whether I wanted Ayo on the roster at the start of the season, let alone playing how he, didn't think he was going to play how he was. So obviously my vote for that reason was Ayo. I'll let you give your prediction and initial prediction and your vote.
Before I do, we've got a Shams bomb.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but Chris Fleming will not be returning to Billy Donovan's staff.
Interesting.
Yeah, just came through there.
Going somewhere else.
Kentucky.
Head coach somewhere, maybe.
Maybe.
Is that the change?
Let's hope that's not the only change. That will simply not be good enough if that is what he's going to hang his hat on. But I'm sure there's more to come. So sorry. So what was the question?
Yeah, they've just reading all the Shams bombs now for the follow-up ones. Bulls assistant Mo Cheeks is expected to part from his full-time on-bench role as well. Cheeks could remain in another role under Donovan. And Bulls assistant coach John Bryant is expected to move to the front of the bench next season on Donovan's staff.
Okay.
So, yeah, obviously, that's thrown us a little bit.
Yeah, I'm seeing all that stuff now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there is change happening, kind of.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the lines. Back to what we were saying. Your prediction and your vote for our most improved.
Yeah, well, our most improved, my vote got scuppered by injury. And we'll just leave it at that. I had voted for P. Will and was hoping to see plenty more of those sexy rainbow threes and got to see hardly any. You'd nearly forget he was even on the squad because he wasn't getting too much even reporting or conversation on him, really. But I think he was actually drastically missed throughout the course of the season for his size and defensive prowess, if nothing else. But I guess we'll never know. And my actual vote went to, in my opinion, there was nobody else it could even go for, and that was Kobe White. Although I do appreciate what you say about Io, and Io was great this season and did show great ascension, and it was kind of shadowed an awful lot because of the Kobe situation. But I think with Kobe winning it last year on the C-Reg UK vote, I think we as fans, as Bulls fans, we started to see a little bit of what could potentially come from Kobe before the rest of the NBA saw it. You know, obviously we're more focused on the Bulls. And it was great to see that ascension not only came, but it came to a point and to a level that was beyond my expectations and beyond what I thought it would be. And for that reason, I thought he simply had to get the most improved vote from me. And he's in top 3 and potentially could even nick it for the NBA's most improved.
Yeah, and just on that, by the time this episode is edited and put out, we'll probably know whether Kobe has won it or not, because it's I think it's midnight for us, something like that.
Right.
I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern.
An hour and 15 minutes away from now.
Yeah, so by the time you're listening, we'll know. So
I might
good luck,
put a
Kobe.
footnote in.
And yeah, on to the next one, and another NBA finalist is, well, the clutch player finalist. Also won our MVP, and that is DeMar DeRozan. I don't know when they're announcing the clutch one. I haven't seen the time on that. Imagine maybe tomorrow or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all going to be over next week.
Yeah. So yeah, last year's winner was Zach on this award. It was a 2-horse race, this one. From the vote, it was between DeMar and Caruso. I think DeMar ended up winning it with 76% of the vote in the end. That's obviously from Twitter. And yeah, I can't say why not, basically. Because he was pretty much our best player.
Yeah.
We'd also been running something on the Discord where we were giving out points instead of the bull of the game. And DeMar it only started at the start of March, but DeMar absolutely walked it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just testament to the fact that if we didn't have DeMar this year, we'd be in a lot worse position.
That's for sure.
And you can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, because a lot of people wanting to see the training wheels let off for Kobe, Io, and everyone else. But the times where we potentially saw it, it didn't look good, did it?
It didn't always look good, let's put it that way.
No. And we saw in the Heat game last week that we needed DeMar.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, obviously, we still didn't get it done, but it'd have been a lot worse if DeMar wasn't there. So yeah, my initial prediction was that Zach was going to take it. I think looking back over the predictions, majority of people were putting Zach for it. My vote in the end did go to DeMar.
Yeah. Mine did too.
Yeah, I think you predicted Zach as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So, yeah, that was our awards. Unsung Hero, Caruso. Most Improved, Kobe. Most Valuable was DeMar. Like I say, at the minute, we are running polls to grade the players, which over the next few weeks we'll be sort of bringing out onto the pod and giving our grade, going back over our predicted grades at the start of the season and all that sort of stuff. So please do go on our Twitter and get involved, or join the Discord and get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got nothing else. I don't know if you have.
No, just a quick apology if this one's felt a bit disjointed, but I did say that there was potential that somebody could come knocking on the door, and 3 people came knocking on the door throughout the course of trying to record this. So do apologise, but I'll try and piece it together as best I can. Hopefully you haven't noticed the glitches too much.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know you will. You're getting the raw version.
Yeah, I had to try and deal with it at the same time. Yeah, like I say, we're not planning on going anywhere. We will be having enforced breaks probably over at some point through the off season and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we aim to be back next Tuesday, maybe.
Yeah, that's the plan.
As usual. So yeah, until then, I've been Matt. Thanks for listening. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe everywhere you can, and you can find me on Twitter at MattSearedUK. You can find us on all the socials at SearedUK.
And you'll
Bye-bye.
find me on Twitter at SearedUK. On behalf of both Matt and myself and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. Until next time, see Red people, go Bulls.